From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Going bananas for bananas, how one store display is setting records. An update on a massive processing plant with eyes on South Dakota.
I think there's a lot of great opportunities for our producers in South Dakota.
And the war in Ukraine, how it's factoring into grain supplies around the world.
Even if they produce more, can we even export that?
It's going to be stuck in the country.
And what new numbers tell us about future demand right now on Ag. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Commodity markets continuing to digest the latest numbers released from USDA at the end of last week. The agency leaving corn and soybean production unchanged, but raising it by 8 million bushels for wheat due to an increase in winter wheat yield and production. Now the story is in the stocks. Old crop corn ending stocks were raised by 45 million bushels due to a 50 million bushel decrease in exports. That leads to a 40 million bushel increase in new crop ending stocks to 1.4 billion bushels. World ending stocks are raised by 5.3 million metric tons, while USDA increased old crop soybean exports by 30 million bushels. That lowered old crop ending stocks by 205 million, which pulled new crop carryover down the same amount to 280 million. World ending stocks were raised slightly, tied to a 2.4 million metric ton increase in South American production. While wheat old crop ending stocks were unchanged, but new crop was raised 8 million from last month to 627 million bushels. Now new crop global stocks were lowered by only 200,000 metric tons, but that is still a 6-year low. AgDay national reporter Michelle Rook joins us with reaction. And Michelle, markets not seeing much in this report so far.
Clinton, this was a fairly benign report as we expected, but there were just a few head-scratching revisions here to visit about. That is Matt Bennett with agmarket.net. So one of those revisions was an increase in corn ending stocks with the lower exports by 50 million bushels. Did you think that was justified?
Not necessarily. In my opinion, I thought that we might actually reach the goal. I know that shipments have run a little bit behind. I know that the sales haven't been overwhelmingly good, but at the same time, we don't need them to be too awful good. And so at my stage, or my thoughts at this stage of the marketing year, if you do drop in exports at all, I think you've got to revise ethanol a little higher. So I think that the carryout's probably going to end up where we were previously, if not below, as far as old crop's concerned.
The other adjustment was world ending stocks up about 5.3 million metric tons due to an increase in Ukraine production. Even if they produce more, can we even export that?
It's going to be stuck in the country. I mean, quite frankly, you've got to assume that the available supply of world corn is going to be at least 10, 12 million tons below what the USDA is saying that we have available. Now, you could read into those numbers by all means, but it seems like some folks made a little bit too much of the numbers increasing. Quite frankly, I think the world corn numbers have been a head scratcher for quite some time, not just this report.
And soybean ending stocks down 30 million bushels. We expected that, but do you think we're trading below 200 million bushels old crop?
It sure seems like it, and quite frankly, once again, I think that your soybean number is going to be even tighter than what it was. I believe Ag Market was the low number as far as the carryout was concerned for old crop. I tend to think that you will get below 200, and in fact, I think you could be getting very close to pipeline stocks before it's all said and done. Continue to run well in advance on exports. Crush is phenomenal. They're not going to quit crushing beans with the kind of margins we're seeing.
Well, thanks for that analysis. That's Matt Bennett, agmarket.net. Catch our full analysis at agweb.com.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Well, gas prices top a new record of $5 a gallon to start the week. They were just a few pennies away on Friday, topping $4.98 a gallon. Gas prices combined with food and most other goods and services jumped in May, raising inflation to a new 4-decade high. The Labor Department says consumer prices surged 8.6% last month from the 12 months earlier. That's faster than April's year-over-year increase of 8.3%. The cost of groceries, it surged 12% last month from a year earlier, the biggest increase since 1979. Restaurant prices, they jumped 7.4% in the past year, the largest 12-month gain since November of 1981. Now, some market watchers are concerned about what this will mean for the meat industry.
the place where inflation hits us is that it reduces the spending, the buying power of consumers' incomes. And so their discretionary dollars will get smaller and smaller as they have to pay more for gasoline and transportation and other items. And face it, we're a discretionary item in many people's purchases, or at least the quantity they buy is discretionary. And because if they don't have enough money, they're probably going to cut back on their purchases of meat. So that's where I'm concerned about inflation. And if we can get it under control pretty quickly before it gets built into the expectations of consumers, I think we'll be all right. But right now, it's a big concern.
Now, the Fed has signaled it will raise its key short-term rate by a half point, double the size of the usual hike this week and again in July in an effort to curb inflation. Part of that price picture goes back to trade. The Biden administration just announcing plans to nominate Doug McCallum to the role of Chief Agricultural Negotiator with the Office of USTR. He's a longtime advisor and aide to Secretary Vilsack and has also worked on rural affairs for the White House, including coordinating its response to the 2012-2013 drought. His nomination will need Senate approval. The administration also recently nominating Alexis Taylor to be USDA Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs. It's really starting to feel more like summer with heat and humidity moving in this week across much of the country. Meteorologist Matt Yurisovic joins us with an update. Matt?
Yeah, Clinton, that's right. And as we kind of head through this week, especially by Wednesday, a big ridge building in the east, and you can see that right here on the map. Very hot and humid all the way up into the Great Lakes. Meanwhile, staying cooler in the upper Midwest, where we are going to be watching for some showers, a couple of thunderstorms as well. So that'll be what the pattern looks like. And yeah, we're going to see that heat and humidity as we look at this weather watch most of this week across the lower 48. Triple-digit heat values are also likely, especially right through the middle part of the country. And then showers and thunderstorms in the northern United States. We're going to be dealing with those in the upper Midwest as well. Those will move through as we head kind of through the middle part of the week, kind of lingering through the end of the week in the Northeast. There's a look at Monday, June 13th. The storm system moving through the northern Rockies, bringing some showers and some storms, and then a couple of pop-ups down there in Florida. Meanwhile, hot and dry in the west, hot and humid in the east. And this is bound to put a smile on your face. Krista Simmons of Oklahoma posting this one, reminding everyone that you should always stop and take time to smell the flowers. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
We're continuing to follow plans for a giant meat processing plant for Rapid City, South Dakota. The $1.1 billion beef and bison packing plant would be owned by Kingsbury and Associates along with Sirius Realty. Now they have announced the name of the potential facility. The plant would be called Western Legacy Development Corporation, and the group is partnering with the Farmers Union Industries on the byproduct side. The 8,000 head per day facility would be the largest in the country, raising questions about procurement. Officials say they've been working with feed yards in western South Dakota that have closed in recent years and will pull cattle from across the nation. While the project is drawing skepticism, some state officials remain cautiously optimistic.
I'm hopeful that it happens. I think there's a lot of great opportunities for our producers in South Dakota from that, and just another look at kind of diversifying the industry is great. I think it's early to see where that's going to end up, but certainly excited to see those opportunities come. And
now the CEO says they'll be detailing their research and development phase over the next 6 months and will break ground at the beginning of next year. Meanwhile, Drovers reports construction has stopped on an expansion project at the Iowa Premium Beef Plant in Tama, Iowa. An Iowa Premium spokesperson telling the Des Moines Register construction has indefinitely paused, citing rising costs. The plant, which is owned by National Beef, will continue to operate its current facility with capacity to harvest 1,300 head of cattle a day. Poet, the world's largest ethanol producer, has signed a letter of intent to capture and ship carbon from 18 of its ethanol plants in Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota to be stored in Illinois. Navigator CO2 Ventures intends to ship and store approximately 5 million metric tons of carbon dioxide annually via their pipeline, which will be operational by the year 2025. Now, this reflects somewhat of a shift for Poet, which had been non-committal about signing a pipeline project because they developed a market to provide CO2 to companies, including food processors. The latest supply and demand numbers weren't the only thing that markets were watching at the end of last week. Michelle Rook has those details coming up next. And later, talk about a bunch of bananas, how this display is now in the history books in the country.
Find farm equipment on Machinery Pete's June 21st online auction. No reserve, no buyer fees. Start bidding now at auctions.machinerypete.com.
We're watching today to see if the U.S. Supreme Court will decide whether to hear an important case involving Roundup. The High Court could decide as soon as today whether it will take up a review of an appeals court decision. That decision upheld $25 million in damages awarded to a California man who claimed Roundup caused his cancer. Bayer, which now owns Monsanto, wants the Supreme Court to find federal approval for Roundup's product labeled by the EPA, meaning that the suit cannot be brought forward under California law. What the court decides could determine how thousands of other cases proceed in the courts. Now, last week, a Missouri court ruled in favor of Bayer in a similar case. In a different lawsuit, the owner of a commercial nursery has won $1 million judgment against the Florida Department of Agriculture. And it comes after the state destroyed citrus trees in the 2000s in an attempt to stop the spread of citrus greening. A jury in Orlando last week determined the Ag Department destroyed more than 160,000 citrus plants. It said Gary Mahone deserved the money as compensation. The Department of Ag argued he could have avoided his losses by moving his citrus plants into greenhouses. It says it plans to appeal. USDA's report wasn't the only market driver Friday. Stocks fell hundreds of points amid inflation and a soaring dollar. Michelle Rook joins us once again for a look at the marketing week ahead.
Joining us with market analysis, Matt Bennett is back with agmarket.net. Well, the market really didn't trade the numbers in the WSDA report. We were really dominated by some of the outside market influences. And will that be kind of the case as we start a new week?
Yeah, you know, bottom line, whenever you look at the equities markets getting beat up, the dollar was screaming higher. It's pretty tough to see the markets really rallying substantially, but at the same time, you know, the corn report wasn't exactly friendly, and so you got to ask yourself, why was corn able to close higher on the day and actually post pretty good weekly closes above what we saw a week ago? And I think the big thing right there is weather. You know, this weather is looking a little more ominous every day. You've got more, I guess, agreement with some of the weather models. Some of them out 30 days are talking basically no rain, and we're talking a lot of 90s. My part of the world, we're getting dry, and I don't think that, you know, I'm the only place that's the case. And looking at 90 degrees whenever we're getting within 3-4 weeks of pollination is a little bit scary.
Yeah, and you mentioned weather, but the other thing we're going to be watching, the Fed is meeting on Wednesday and Thursday, and after the big CPI number last Friday, certainly we're going to be expecting an increase in rates, aren't we?
Yeah, we expect increase in rates. I mean, they're talking maybe 3/4 of a point at this stage of the game. It's going to be really interesting to see how our markets handle this, because I've got to think that if they go ahead and go through the 3/4 of a point, you know, and then a further talk of a further increase next month, I think it's going to be very hard on the equities markets, as would be expected. What is there going to be a fair amount of pressure on the Fed at that point to maybe pump the brakes? I think that that'll be the case. It'll be, again, extremely interesting to see how this all plays out.
You bet. Money flow is impacting all the commodities, that's for sure. Thanks so much for joining us. That's Matt Bennett with agmarket.net. More Ag Day coming up.
To contact Matt Bennett at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here. And Matt, you're talking about heat this week, and it looks like that ridge is really going to bring some triple digits warm temperatures.
Oh yeah, the triple digit heat index as well. So even though it might only be in the 90s for some, it's going to feel very, very hot, and we're going to continue to see that all throughout this week in the lower 48. And if you take a look at the map right here, the jet stream well to the north and we've got a ridge building through the center of the country as we're heading really through the start of this week. And we're going to continue to see that ridge build, especially in the east, sending the warmth all the way north into southern parts of Canada. Meanwhile, you see that little dip in the jet stream back to the west. That's going to keep things unsettled, a little bit cooler back there. Now, as we head through Wednesday and into Thursday towards the end of the week, notice that ridge kind of disappears. A big dome of heat building across the lower 48, and we're going to continue to see the heat and the humidity build through next weekend. It looks like some of that could even make it up into central parts of Canada. So something to keep in mind as we head through this week. Here's a look at the precipitation this week. Not a lot of people are going to be happy from central Texas on to the west. There will be a few of you though, Arizona, parts of New Mexico there, that get a little bit of some help with some of that rainfall, but most of it going to be right along the northern tier, right through the central Corn Belt there, and then a lot going on in the east as that ridge starts to move off to the east. That'll spark up some showers and some thunderstorms as well. So precipitation this week below normal right there in the center of the country, above back in the Pacific Northwest and parts of the Southwest, staying normal in the east. Here's a look at the temperatures this week though. Much above normal for most of the eastern half of the country, only below normal back there in the Pacific Northwest, where we're going to see cooler temperatures and the threat for some showers and some storms. And then precipitation next week, much of the same and staying warm again from the Rockies on to the East Coast. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Bowling Green, Kentucky, mostly sunny, hot and humid, a high of 95 degrees. Mostly sunny in El Paso, Texas. It's going to be breezy but hot, high of 104 degrees. And then much cooler in Helena, Montana, with some showers likely, a high of 56 degrees.
Up next, the latest auction action with Machinery Pete.
Hey folks, this is our little Miss Pearl Peterson, and she's excited about a couple tractor prices I'm going to tell you about last week from Iowa and Michigan. Stay tuned.
Tractor sales remain red hot to start June, as our resident price purveyor Machinery Pete explains from his home office in Minnesota.
Well folks, the used tractor market just continues to go higher. It's really unbelievable. And the point was driven home by a pair of auctions middle to end of last week. Now last Thursday on a farm estate auction in Rosebush, Michigan by our good friends at Socorro Auction Service, this 2001 John Deere 7810 two-wheel drive, only 1,770 hours on it. Now this thing went for $85,000, and that's the second highest auction price I've ever seen on a two-wheel drive 7810. Now the day before, last Wednesday, I was down in Union, Iowa. We were filming an auction for our Machinery Pete TV show, and the tractor that everybody was buzzing about was this 2010 John Deere 9430 four-wheel drive. Had 1,998 hours on it, had a PTO, sold with a one-year warranty, and it went for $250,000. Now that's the second highest auction price ever on a 9430. Highest price in 10.5 years. And oh, by the way, that same day last Wednesday on an auction over in Missouri, we saw another 9430 go for $236,000, the third highest auction price ever. But to me, the tractor that was the hottest last Wednesday on the Union, Iowa auction was this 2000 model Case IH MX180, 3,424 hours on it, sold for $74,000. Now folks, that's a record high auction price by $8,000, and it shattered a record from 21 years ago.
All right, thanks Pete. Up next, a new world record is set at a grocery store. How 70,000 pounds of fruit and lots of patience helped this produce team make history. That story next.
It's time to sign up for the 2022 United Pork Americas Conference in Orlando, Florida. Register today at UnitedPorkAmericas.com and join us September 7th through the 9th.
We know that grocery stores take great pride in their fruit displays, and one of them just set a record. Check out what the Jewel Osco store in Westmont, Illinois set up. Now just look at all of those bananas. The store says it took 3 days for employees to create the display, the store teaming up with fruit producer Fresh Del Monte to make it happen. It features about 70,000 pounds of bananas, and it's so big it broke the Guinness World Record for the largest fruit display ever, easily breaking the previous record set back in 2016 in Brazil of just over 41,000 pounds. But this was also for a good cause. All of the bananas are being given away for free to customers, with any leftovers going to the local food bank. Very cool, and congratulations. Well, that's all of our time this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.